Hi, my name is Noel Kincaid, and I am a second semester first year MLIS student. Today I'm going to be talking with you about three great books in young adult literature that focus on the theme of either trauma and/or traumatic events. Even though the books that I picked are all focused on one theme, I believe that any of these three books would be books that any teen could enjoy and appreciate and learn something from. For this book talk, I chose to focus on books that deal with trauma or traumatic events because with the events that are happening in today's current society, I think it's important that teens know that there are books out there that are available to help them come up with ways to cope and deal with what they're going through. The three books that I'm going to be talking with you about today are called Hey Kiddo by Jared Krasovska, A Heart and the Body and the World by Deb Coletti, and Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. The first book that I'm going to talk about today is called Hey Kiddo by Jared Krasovska. Hey Kiddo is a graphic novel memoir that focuses on Jared Krasovska's life from his young preschool years, from the age of 3 through his high school years. The memoir is set in Western Massachusetts and occurs from the late 1980s through most of the 1990s. This story encompasses all parts of Jared's life throughout those years. It is a story of how he had to live with and deal with his mother named Leslie, who struggled with a heroin addiction throughout his life and was in and out of jail and rehab as he was growing up, and how he dealt with those feelings. Even though the story talks about his mom, it isn't the story of his mom's fight with addiction, but his feelings about his mom and his dad, who he's never met up until that point. It's also a story of how his grandparents, Shirley and Joe, raised him and took care of him while he was growing up. It's also a story of how art played a huge role in Jared's life and made him the person that he has become today. Hey Kiddo is a moving memoir that talks about dysfunction, families, and how art can be used to get you through the most difficult of times. Part of the beginning of Jared's story starts when he is in his preschool classroom and is asked to draw a picture of his mom and dad. Jared has a hard time deciding what to draw because he hasn't ever met his father and he hasn't seen his mother in a long time up to that point. So he ends up drawing this picture. That shows his grandparents instead of his parents. After his first experience with art, Jared uses art to deal with all the unanswered questions in his life. The excerpt that I want to read shows a perfect example of how he used art throughout his life and how it was important to him. So as you can see, he says, "When I was a kid, I draw to get attention from my family. In junior high, I drew to impress my friends. But now that I am in my teens, I feel sketchbooks just to deal with life, to survive." Throughout the memoir, you can see that Jared wants really badly to not let his challenging upbringing affect how successful he is in life. This memoir gives a lot of insight into what it's like to grow up in a family where addiction plays a part. This book is necessary because there's a lot of Jareds out there, kids who don't have the perfect home life, who don't have relationships with both of their parents or any of their parents, and also with kids who are looking for things to help them cope, like art did with Jared. Overall, the memoir is extremely well done, and Jared is very real and honest in the way that he writes about his family members' strengths and shortcomings. So if you're looking for a really good graphic novel or memoir, Hey Kiddo is a good way to go. So the next book that I'm going to be talking about is A Heart and the Body and the World by Deb Coletti. This book is a book that follows a story of a girl named Annabelle who goes through a horrible and tragic experience in her junior year of high school. The reader is not told right away what the tragedy is and is left guessing throughout most of the novel. There are hints of what happened that are interspersed throughout the book, but the reader doesn't actually get to find out what really happened until towards the end of the novel. As a result of the trauma that Annabelle experiences, and as a result of the episode of PTSD that occurs when a guy grabs Annabelle's arm as she is waiting in line to order her food, she makes a very sudden decision to run across the United States from where she lives in Seattle, Washington, all the way to Washington, D.C., which is a total distance of 2,700 miles. She decides that doing this run will be the way that she copes. Because her idea was a spur-of-the-moment idea, she is completely unprepared for what lies ahead on her journey across the United States. While she is running across the United States, she is followed by her grandfather in his old RV, which she uses to take breaks in and sleep at night. She also meets some important people along her route and has the support of a lot of the people in her hometown, including her brother and her friends. Her brother and friends even make GoFundMe and other social media to help her get support and to follow her progress, which ends up getting national media attention. She was extremely uncomfortable with this for a while, as she did not want the recognition, as she was doing this for herself and her own healing. The story is written extremely well and is extraordinarily engaging and captivating. As the reader, you get to really know Annabelle and what going through that tragedy was like for her and how hard it was for her to move on and not shut down because of the survivor's guilt that she was suffering from. This book deals with a lot of different important issues such as PTSD, violence, trauma, and even sexuality. I want to read an excerpt from the book from the first chapter where Annabelle has just stopped after running for the first time and is on the phone with her mother to tell her that she's going to keep going. In the excerpt, Annabelle says that I'm not coming home, I'm going to run and keep running, I'm going to run until I reach Washington, D.C. Of course this is crazy and impossible and doomed, even if she's a long-distance runner and has 2 marathon medals hanging on the doorknob of her room. It is silly and dramatic and naive, also idealistic. Of course she has no concept of the realities here. She has no plan, no team, no training. She will fail, fail, fail. But all she can feel at this moment is how much she personally needs this. She needs this so bad. Yes, she is that Annabelle Agnelli. This is PTSD, Annabelle, her mother says. Don't you remember what Dr. Mann said? This is hyperarousal recklessness. Have you been having flashbacks? You haven't been sleeping well, I know. Talk to me. No one just does something like this. People who do, they plan, Annabelle, for months. There's, I don't know, lots of stuff involved. No one just takes off. I'm coming to get you. Stop acting crazy. Stop acting crazy? Well, it is far, far too late for that. So, in conclusion, A Heart in the Body and the World by Deb Coletti is a really powerful book, and I really recommend it. The last book that I'm going to be talking about today is The Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. This is a novel that is different than most and that is written in verse form, as you can see here. The story is different than most other books in that the story mostly only spans over a minute of the main character's life. The story opens with the main character named Will, who's a 15-year-old who has just realized that his brother has been shot dead in the street. Will lives in a neighborhood where they have certain rules that they live by, and then there are 3 main ones. These rules are no crying, no snitching, and seek revenge. At the beginning of the book, after his brother Sean is killed, Will comes up with a theory on who he thinks killed his brother, and he decides that he is going to follow rule number 3 and take revenge. Will knows where his brother kept his gun in his room, so he takes his gun and heads toward the elevator to go seek his revenge on the person that he thinks killed his brother. Will is riding on the elevator down 8 floors to the lobby of his building and is prepared to go after the person he thinks shot his brother. As you can see, the cover alludes to an elevator, which is 7 floors. As he is going down to the lobby in the elevator, Will gets a special visitor who is a part of his life and that has died on every floor as he makes his way down to the lobby. Each of the visitors that he talks with on his long way down the elevator has a discussion with him to try to help him decide what he should do about going after the person he thinks killed his brother and seeking revenge. I want to read an excerpt from the book, which is a scene where Will is deciding that he is going to go by the rules that he has learned growing up. I felt like crying, which felt like another person trapped behind my face. Tiny fists punching the back of my eyes, feet kicking my throat at the spot where the swallow starts. Stay put, I whispered to him. Stay strong, I whispered to me, because crying is against the rules. The rules. Number 1, crying. Don't. No matter what, don't. Number 2, snitching. Don't. No matter what, don't. Number 3, revenge. If someone you love gets killed, find the person who killed them and kill them. Overall, this book is valuable and important because of its emotional impact and also because of the significant insights that you gain into the life of what people who are in the same situation as well, or even similar situations, are going through, and that Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds would be a great read for any teen. In summary, all 3 of the novels that I have talked about today deal with either trauma and/or traumatic events. I believe that any of these 3 books could be enjoyed by teens, so anyone that is looking for a good book that deals with events that could and do happen in real life, you should find and check out some of these titles from your local school library. Once again, the titles that I talked about were called Hey Kiddo by Jared Krasowska, A Heart and a Body in the World by Deb Coletti, and Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I hope that you found this book talk helpful and that you decide to go and check out some or all the books at your local library.